Just looking for my notes. Hi, it's Carol from Gardens by Trade. Today we're talking about, is it safe to compost in plastic? Short answer, yes it is. Long answer, we'll get into it. Alright, so we all know that composting is really beneficial for your garden, and everyone likes to compost. It's a good way of getting rid of food scraps and stuff like that from the kitchen. You know what I like? I'd like it if you could subscribe to our channel, click like on our page there, just down the bottom, and if you've got any questions about composting or any other assets or any other parts of gardening, don't hesitate to ask and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. Alright, so let's talk about the different ways of composting into plastic. There's three main plastics. So the first one we'll talk about is PET. That one's most recognisable. It has the number 1 with 3 arrows around it. You'll find that that's really common. The PET is heat resistant, which is really good. It tends not to warp, or it's safe. It can be used in foods. A lot of your foods and stuff like that have got the PET. They're using it more and more. Apart from just the heat resistance, it's a nice safe one, and it doesn't tend to, when it gets a little bit too warm, it won't send off fumes which will go into your compost. Alright, so the next plastic I'm going to talk about is HDPE. It's one of the most common ones out there, and it's very versatile. It can be found in anything from sprinkler systems to remote controls, and even in your car dash. The HDPE leaves a more environmental footprint though. It doesn't break down as well. The PET does. It's quite recyclable. I think it's around 100% recyclable, whereas the HDPE is not, or the HDPE. So you just want to be mindful when you're using it. There's no problems using it, but just be mindful that you want to make sure that you use it for a period of time where you're not leaving a massive footprint on the environment. The HDPE, it can be also used in like your general bins, your general waste bins and stuff like that. It's very common. Alrighty, the last plastic I'm going to talk about is LDPE. This one's it's quite thin and flimsy. You'll find a lot of things like grapes, blueberries, strawberries and stuff like that come in it in the supermarket. So it's probably nowhere near as versatile. But yeah, it's quite thin and flimsy, and it tends to warp. Alright, even though it does warp and stuff like that, you can get bins custom made into it. But I think the preference you'll understand is probably the PET is the best one to get your bins made out of. Alrighty, now let's talk about the best spot in your yard to put your bin. You want it somewhere that it's only going to get to about 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, which is about 68 to I think about 86 Fahrenheit. During the day, so you want to sort of keep it at a medium. If you get it too hot, it will affect your bin. People think you need to have it in full sun, and you don't. It's the last thing you need to do. You just need to try and average your temperatures between that 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. Make sure that you know, like in summer where you've got higher temperatures, you probably might have it in the shade nearly all day, and you probably don't need the sun on it. But for winter, you might need your winter sun on it. So the advantage of a lot of your home composting bins is they're not as big and bulky, so you can move them, empty them out, put your compost in your garden, and do it at coming into summer or coming into winter, which would be your two extremes. So you're going to get the different sun temperature on it. If it's in summer, you probably only want morning sun or late afternoon sun, and only 2 or 3 hours. So it's going to vary on the time of the year where you have it. If you can have it somewhere that it gets a good 12 months a year, where it's going to, through winter, be in the full sun, but in summer it's going to be in shade, perfect. So it's just finding that right dynamic for yourself. Most of your bins come in black, so obviously that's why you have them in the sun, which is good, but you don't want hot sun because it just forms too much of an environment in there that will kill your worms, and it's just pointless. I previously did touch on just using the wrong plastic. So if you use the wrong plastic and it's not quite sustainable into the environment through heat and stuff like that, it can send off fumes, and then with the sweating and stuff like that, it gets into like the water, which will then get into your compost, which will then flow through when you put it in your garden. It can be toxic to your plants, and it can make you a bit sick too, so it's not ideal. Make sure you get the right plastic. As I say, I'd recommend the PET. I think that's the most versatile. It's probably cost effective, and it's quite common now. So stick with the PET where you can. If not, you've got the HDPE. Let's quickly just touch on what you can put in your compost bin. So you can put things like shredded plants in there, grass off your lawn and stuff like that, and any of your fruit and veg scraps from the kitchen. leaf litter, stuff like that. Maybe Google what you can and can't put in and put next to your food scrap bin in the kitchen, or have it somewhere that it can be looked at quickly so everybody's aware, because not everything from your food or from your kitchen area can go into a compost bin, but quite a lot can too. And some stuff you won't expect, simple things like tea bags you can put in there. A lot of people don't expect you can do that, or eggshells and stuff like that. On the flip side of that, onions aren't good for a compost bin. So it's just being aware of what will and won't work in a compost bin. The benefits of a compost bin are you can control the environment so you can create a sealed environment that you can control the temperature and build a really, really nice compost. What are the benefits of that? It goes into your garden. So you're bringing stuff from the kitchen into the garden, from the garden into the garden, and you're benefiting your plants by feeding them and giving them a high compost, which will grow. You'll get worms and stuff like that in there. Using the right environment to grow them in is the important part. And as plastic's been used for years and years and years, it is the ideal way to do it. There are alternatives, but plastic's probably the most versatile and the most common. So stick with it. I would recommend getting a PET if you can, in that form of plastic, or a HDPE. All right, going to finish up now. Again, if you like our video, give us a like, subscribe to our channel. I think it's a worthy channel to subscribe to. And any questions, again, ask down the bottom. Go out there, get yourself set up with a nice little compost bin, form lots of worms, improve your environment, and have a glorious garden. Do you know anything about composting in plastic? You don't? Why is that? You're a dog?